I was gonna rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me.
No affiliation, why they faking? This ain't for debating. We the real, they really imitation. I be contemplating why this ain't on like heavy rotation on radio stations. I just pray the Lord give me patience, cause I'm running through these rappers like my name Walter Payton. Shitting on these rappers, 9 to 5 is my occupation. Raw, you come in with your best troops, you best bring more. Already told you I got the juice like Orenthal. Already know what I'm about to do, bet your men fall. Everyone know that we got the truth, all your men falls. So lost, overtaking our enemies. Moves calculated and orchestrated like symphonies. Smooth operated when bringing haters to misery. Top 5 list ain't shit unless you mention me. Yeah, that's why we don't associate. Fuck niggas make them more fuck niggas. Why they procreate? Why they overhate? Cause they time is short and a moment late. Let it culminate to they harder race and it palpitate. Cowards perpetrate like they little group is respectable. Talking intellectual, all of you homosexuals, faggots.
There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children.
I don't want to congregate. I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to fellowship. I ain't trying to build with you. Ain't the UPK, ain't the truth. Keep it real with you. Defenders of the faith, I got no problem bumping heads with you. All that bullshit, you can take it over there with you. Rather be a houseboy. Rather run with them field niggas. Show them to put in work. Move mountain, crush hills, nigga. Take a dead soul. Breathe life and make it live, nigga. No affiliation, so it's no one to compare with us. Took the Lord's laws and just added it with fear, nigga. Ain't for the body, cause you know that killer head quicker. With these bars, I'm on my grizzly, so bear witness. You spit cold, I spit flu. Don't compare sickness. You floss diamond, I floss fringes. Don't compare dentist. You PK, we men the wall shit. We ain't Christian. Harm one of us, get pistol whipped like the gun got a belt with it. I'm bred different. The competition just a mill. I'm fed different. I stood front line on them fields. I bled different. I'd rather be a corpse than a cow when I'm led different. Shit, I'm led different. Come through like a juggernaut, so don't get in the way. And we take everything serious. We don't play. I wonder now what they gon' say. Shit, we make profits out of shooters like the NBA. You get slayed for switching sides, nigga. We ain't on the same page. Immaculate conception. Wow. These niggas bitch made. I'm sticking with the foundation where my bricks laid. You switch sides, I'd rather switch K's. You was never with us, nigga. Just know we on mission, nigga. Right hand hold the scriptures, nigga. Left hip hold the pistol, nigga. How you want it? You can get it spiritual or physics, nigga. Wrong ones to come against, so bring an army with you. No affiliation. When you see us, make the difference with us. No affiliation. When you see us, know we different, nigga. No affiliation, so no, you can't kick it with us. The wrong ones to come against, bring an army with you.
Misunderstood for having some morality, but my people dance spirituality. Lord knows, just a young Hebrew from Killer, California. Used to thug in the streets with no sense of order. Used to love to press the line, even test the water, and almost lost my life from slanging and hanging on that corner. I learned to cut the grass so I could see the snakes. I had to decipher between the real and fake. And nowadays, all these niggas do is hate. Treat you like a bitch, sit back and try to manipulate. Yeah, that's why I got it on my own too. You see me rocking with the Hebrews. UPK is how we do. Stand for the Lord, the mother niggas is see-through.
Where the soldiers at? Where the soldiers at? Where the soldiers at?
Wake your game up, my nigga. Ain't no time for this shit. I know you sitting back thinking that life is a bitch. Yes, my nigga, I understand. My nigga, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
My nigga, we gotta change. This for the king, this for the king.
It's safe to say we curse today, trying to find another way, but all they do is take away. Trying to pray to make a way while trying to find a safer way. Eat so we can face to face. Please, Lord, save the day, cause everybody at my job always got some shit to say. You might think this shit is crazy, but I deal with this every day. Knowing that we paved the way, I had it up to here today. Listen to the shit to say, make me wanna catch this case, or even if they face away. But I know what those scriptures say. We gon' wait on judgment day, thinking it ain't coming, thinking the Lord bluffing. Waiting on the day is gonna be hotter than the oven, though they treat me like a slave. Wanna see me in the grave, they just see a nigga.
Shalom, Israel. We are the ISUBK, coming out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. It's the Baltimore Brotherhood class, Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. Shalom, Akim and Akwathian all over the world. So, what we want to talk about today is we know that we are in the condition we are today because we have not followed the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High. And we know the consequences for not following the law, statutes, and commandments. You see that in, of course, Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus. You see that in Leviticus and also Deuteronomy 28. Leviticus 26, I believe. However, since we're in Hanukkah, and Hanukkah talks about the dedication, we want to talk about reasons of how we got into this condition. Some things that we as Israelites usually do to get put in these conditions that we're in today. So we're going to look at the Hanukkah story, since we are in this Hanukkah celebration. This past week we have been observing Hanukkah, and we want to learn from those lessons. We want to learn from the lessons that our forefathers did, or in a sense we did, that got us put in the condition that we are today. And what we want to do is we want to avoid the mistakes that they made, or we want to avoid the mistakes that our forefathers made. And then what we want to do is we want to look at fellow Israelites who did the right thing. Who did the right thing, who was in the right spirit, and who had the right attitude, that helped us to get our identity back. Because part of the Hanukkah story is us losing our identity. We lost who we were. We lost our way. We forgot our way. Well, not all of us. Some of us did. We'll talk about who did. But, we started going the way of the heathen. And the other part, so Hanukkah pretty much has two parts. The first part is we lost our identity. The second part is we gained our identity back. And this story applies to us today because what we in the ISUBK are doing is we are claiming our identity back. But in order to claim your identity back, you first have to know how you lost it in the first place, or who's to blame. All right, you have to find out who took your identity, or what caused you to have your identity taken in the first place. Because if before we were woken up, we just all thought we were just some African Americans just sitting here in America, coming from some heathen tribe in Africa, or some Hamite tribe. But that's not the story. That's not our story. Okay? Our culture was taken from us, where we had our identity taken from us, and then we were put on an identity that was new. We put on the identity of the heathen. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that today, and we'll see some lessons here. All right? Let's start in the Apocrypha. Let's start in 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. Salakia. Okay, let's start First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And let's get a little background information. And this story really talks about this story talks about the Greek influence on us as Israelites. Because the Greek influence is really parallel to the white man's American influences on us today. I want you to look at this story today, and I want you to see the parallels. Okay, and when we go to the story, I don't want you to say, well, that's back then. I want you to see the parallels, and we're going to point to the parallels. We're going to point to the parallels throughout the story. How does this apply today? Okay, because you're going to see that we've lived in these conditions that we're in today before. So let's start with 1 Maccabees 1, verse 1.
1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
So what is this talking about? Everybody knows they talk about, like Paul was glorified. This is Alexander the Great. Okay? Or the Greek, the wiser. Alexander the Greek. And who is this guy? This is a man who pretty much conquered the known world then. Okay, he went to distant lands. He went into pretty much all the territories, and he pretty much demolished the other territories around him, and he had them assimilate into his culture, which is the Greek culture. So Alexander the Great, we know, went around the world, the known world, demolished these nations and cultures, and pretty much had the Greek influence. And one of the things he did was he not only influenced all these other nations, he influenced us as Israelites. And we're going to see how he did that. But we know the story. If you don't know the story, I'll just sum it up for time's sake. Alexander the Great died. I think he was very young, in his early 30s, I believe. He died. And when he died, and this story talks about it, his kingdom was split up amongst his four leaders, captains, generals. It was split up amongst them four. And out of one of them came the king, out of one of the generals' empire. So each general pretty much created their own little sub-empire of Alexander's large empire. And then out of one of those generals' sub-empire came the king called Antiochus. So our goal today is going to talk about what was Antiochus, what did he have to do with our history? What did he do that was what were the horrible things that he did? What were some of the things that our leaders did? What were some of the harsh things that our people had to go through? So we're going to look at that. We're going to take a slow look at that. Then we're going to see what our people need to do to get that back. Because the story of Antiochus talks about how we lost our identity. And the modern Antiochus, if you really want to think about it, the modern Antiochus can really be parallel to this whole American system. Are these Democratic, these Republican parties, these other movements that are moving as far with the Kemet groups. All of these have, they can be parallel to Antiochus's rulership. Because Antiochus pretty much caused us to lose our identity. And all these things in this American system that we have around us are influencing our people to lose their identity. To the point where we don't even know who we are. Okay? So we're going to talk about that. So let's go to 1 Maccabees 1, and let's pick it up in verse 11.
1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen.
Stop right there. Now, I'm going to ask some questions. It says, in those days there went out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many. Well, what type of men can usually persuade many people? Anybody know? Come on, sir.
I would say preachers and politicians.
There we go. People in leadership positions. People in leadership positions are the ones that pretty much persuade many of our people to join into the customs of the heathen. This was going back at the time of Antiochus. There were wicked men, rulers, pretty much in Israel, that persuaded the masses of black, Hispanic, and Native people to join and make a covenant with the heathen. Now let me ask you, where do you find this? How does this relate to today? Does anybody know? How does this relate to today? I mean, we pretty much said it, yes, sir?
Well, I'm going to say, like it says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men. So what it's speaking of is speaking of basically wicked men who were Israelites.
Come on, sir.
So in those days went there wicked Israelites who persuaded many, just like our preachers and our politicians do us today. They persuade us to do things that go against everything that the Most High tells us.
Come on, sir. That's exactly what it is. You have pastors today who have mega churches, and in those mega churches, what do? They pretty much show you to go against the law, statutes, and commandments. Eat the shrimp, eat the pork. God has cleansed all the animals. That's what they say.
Right.
The Sabbath is Sunday. They'll change all these things. Give in to your wife. Let her rule you. She's the boss. What do you have the politicians? You have these black politicians out here. Okay? Join the Democrat. If you don't join the Democratic Party, we're in trouble. Or if you don't join this person, follow after this person. So it's these leaders that go out of that come out of us that pretty much tell us to make a covenant with these heathen nations. Okay? When you have these politicians, these black politicians coming out, telling you to join a party, they're pretty much telling you to make a covenant with the heathen nation.
Right.
That's pretty much what they're telling you. And it's always our leaders. Doesn't this sound familiar? Civil rights movement. Okay? What did those leaders of the civil rights movement do? What were they convincing black people? They didn't tell any some people right out of the church in the civil rights movement. What was it? The SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Okay? Dr. King was one of the heads of those.
Right.
What did they tell them to do? They told black people to join and march. They joined with the white man hand in hand. Make a covenant with him. Make an agreement with him. It's the same thing. We had the same attitude historically. And why do we get this attitude? Because our leaders were doing it. Our leaders were the ones. There's precepts to this. Anybody know a precept? What was a precept? Where our leaders came and gave in. You know? So the precept. How about, let's look at, hold your place there, sir.
Okay.
Let's look at John 19:15. It's a precept. It's a precept. You'll see all through biblically where a lot of times when we started taking on the cultures of other nations, it had to do with our leadership. Because our leadership would ask for it. But before the heathen came in and took us over by force, the first thing that usually would happen is our leadership would give in and convince it in.
Right.
That's what really not. It wasn't most of the time where the heathen would just come in and take over everything. Our leaders would invite them in. Let's look at John 19, verse 15. What does it say?
John chapter 19, verse 15. But they cried out, away with him! Away with him!
So they're talking about, these are the priests talking about Yahweh Shah. They're talking about, away enemy of the Most High. And if you join the enemy's customs and ways, you are an enemy of the Most High.
Right.
So right here, they're pretty much showing that Yahushua is an enemy. Away with him, away with him. What do they say next?
Crucify him.
Crucify him. Cut down this black man. Expose this black man. What else do they say?
Pilate said unto them, shall I crucify your king?
This is your king. This is a man of your nation. This is a man of your blood. This is a man that's going to teach you about your culture. This is a man that, told you that if you want to enter the life, keep the commandments. This is a man that said, don't think I've come to destroy the law. I have come to destroy but to fulfill. This is a man that's turning us back to our Father. And what did they say? What did our leader say?
Pilate said unto them, shall I crucify your king? The chief priest answered.
The chief priests, these are supposed to be the leaders in Israel. What do they say?
We have no king but Caesar.
We have no king but Caesar. Our king is the heathen. We have no king but Caesar. Sound familiar? My president, my leader is Biden. My leader is Kamala. My leader is Trump. My leader is Obama. Same thing. Same idea. Same principles. So, one of the reasons why we lose our identity as we start is because our leaders give over our identity to the heathen. Right. That's an important point if you're taking notes. The first way that we lose our identity is because our leaders ask for it. They want it. Okay? They want to follow the custom. But I remember another precept. There's another one. Where can we find this again? This is all in the scriptures. Where can we find this again? How about in Genesis? This is right at the beginning. What happened at the beginning? Eve was sitting up there, okay? She was not to take of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. She was not to take on certain customs, or she wasn't supposed to take on certain foods of thought, or certain ideologies. What did Eve do? She did it, and then who else did it? Her husband did it.
Right.
Okay? And they started taking on the customs. Started taking on, and how did they do that? Let's actually look at that. Let's look at Genesis 3. I just wanted to give us some background because we want to set this up of how we get into the condition. We know we're in the condition from disobeying the Most High. We know that. But you have to see there's certain steps that are taken that has us put in these positions. There's certain steps that are taken. Let's read Genesis chapter 3. Let's start verse 6. Bible shop.
Genesis chapter 3 verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes.
Okay, so it's something that she wants. It's something that's pleasant. I want this. What does our leader say? I want to follow after it. Let's go after the heathen. I want this. Bible shop.
And a tree to be desired to make one wise.
I want to follow after his leadership. I want to follow after these customs. Keep going.
She took of the fruit thereof, and did eat.
Okay, I want to take on these customs, these ways. I'm taking this knowledge. Not the knowledge the Most High told me. I'm taking on this knowledge. Bible shop, continue.
And gave also unto her husband.
Gave also unto her husband. Let's skip to verse 8. What does verse 8 say?
Verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Lord thy God walking in the garden.
Okay. Coming around.
In the cool of the day.
Right.
And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Most High God, Most High Power, amongst the trees of the garden.
They hid amongst the trees. But what are the trees? What do the trees represent? What do the trees represent in the garden? Come on, sir.
The trees represent other nations.
Other nations. So they're hiding themselves among other other nations. They're putting on the culture of other nations. They're putting on the culture and customs. This is right back from the beginning. So the same spirit or the same attitude was there in the beginning. And that's one of the first reason how we get this condition. Let's go back to the Maccabees, Father Shaw. So, point number one, if you want to take notes, we get into this condition of the heathen because our leaders allow it. They invite the heathen right in. They tell us, they convince us to follow the heathen. They convince us to depart from the law, statutes, and commandments. Let's read verse 11 one more time.
First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us.
Let's go and join in with that, the other nations. Continue.
For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Where have you heard that before? Since we departed. If you notice all through the scriptures, the Most High will bring us out from amongst the heathen, and what we always want to do, we always want to go back. We always want to go back. And that's an attitude that we have to make sure, looking at this story, that's an attitude we have to make sure we avoid. Precept, that's a precept. Where else can you find that?
That's in Exodus.
That's in Exodus. What did they say? Oh, if only we were back in Egypt. Only we had fish in Egypt. Things were well. Why don't we go back? So so we see that the same attitude keeps reoccurring. All right, let's continue the story. All right, let's go to verse 12. Let's just continue down. We're starting at verse 12, sir.
Verse 12. So this device pleased them well.
So they were pleased. Okay, so now the masses and now the people are pleased now because now they feel like things are going to get better. Baba Shah.
Verse 13. Then certain of the people were so froward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Okay, now they're going to the king and getting like permission to go after the customs of the heathen. Baba Shah.
Verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen.
Okay, so that's why, if you notice nowadays, so what was the customs of the heathen then? They built a exercise unit. What was the custom? The custom of the Greeks, they were really into the Olympics. They were really into the sports. They were really into it, okay? Really into wrestling and Olympic trials. Okay, and you see that on us now today. Come on, I'll show you a question.
Not only that, they did their Olympic games and things. They did everything almost naked.
Yeah, come. So they would do things naked. So when the Greeks did it, so what happened to our brothers and sisters? We were exposing ourselves. And a lot of our brothers and sisters died doing those type of sports. Okay, some of those wrestling matches ended in death.
Right.
And so we're following the ways of the heathen. So if you got a bunch of men doing all this stuff naked, what do you think comes after that? Not homosexuality.
Right.
Because the Greeks were homosexuals. The Spartans and the Athenians were known homosexuals. They were known homosexuals. So we're building our gymnasium and following after these customs. A lot of our men became homosexuals doing this. And you see this today. You see this today. If you notice when you see that the heathen today, he'll try to equate homosexuality with black people's movements. I don't know if people have catch that.
Right.
Every time there's a black movement of something, the heathen always tries to slide in homosexuality, putting it on the same par.
Right.
That's why Black Lives Matter is not even really about black people. it's running. And you don't even, really. It's really, they just slide those customs right in. Slide. And what do we have to blame? Our leaders. Our leaders. And so we're going after the way of the heathens, we become an enemy of the Most High. Let's continue.
Verse 15. And made themselves uncircumcised.
They made themselves uncircumcised. That pretty much means they stopped following the law, statutes, and commandments. Bible Sean?
And forsook the holy covenant.
So they pretty much stopped doing the ways of, if you follow the ways of the heathens, you're not doing the ways of the Most High. You're eating shrimp, crab, and lobster. Okay? You're doing idolatrous practices. You're celebrating Christmas. You're celebrating your birthday. You're celebrating Easter. Your woman rules over you. Because if you remember, the Greeks were in love with female goddesses. There was probably just as many or even more female goddesses than there were male gods. And they always put the woman on the platform. So when you follow that, the customs of the heathen, the black man is not in rulership anymore. Where do we see this today? The black man is not in rulership. In religious ceremony. Where's that at? Where can you find that? In a religious ceremony, the black man is not the head. You find that in the Christian church.
Right.
You find that right in the Christian church. Well, you see it being done back here. When you are following the customs of the heathen, you're going to do what the heathen does. This is the thing the Greeks were doing. They were in love. They worshipped their women, their goddesses. And in the Christian church, the woman is worshipped. The black man in the church has to be quiet. He barely can lead a prayer. He has to be quiet. The woman is up there, the pastor, she is the one leading everything. She is the one saying everything. She is the one that is organizing everything. The black man pretty much has to be quiet. He has to shut his mouth. And where do we get this from? We get this, you got these customs from the Greeks.
Right.
That's where we got it from. Let's continue.
And joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
Okay, so they were sold to do mischief. So, point number one, we go into this, we get into these conditions because we give them to the other nations, our leadership. And our leaders persuade all of us. Okay, that's our Dr. Kings back then. Our other civil rights heroes, supposedly. They ain't really heroes, but you know what I mean. Our other civil rights people back then. Okay? Our so-called black leaders nowadays that is telling us to follow after the way of the heathen. Alright? Now, after that, what's next? Now we got to find out. So step one, our leaders give in. Step two actually kind of goes with step one. Step two is kind of hand in hand. Because one of the things is that, and we got to look at history. When we give in to the heathen always does something. When we first compromise, the heathen does this. Actually, let's look at First Maccabees. Let's look at First Maccabees 2, verse 17. Let's look at that real quick. I want to just set up what the heathen actually does. Let's look at First Maccabees 2, verse 17. This story is so rich with information of how we lost our identity. So, when we're going over these lessons, you want to see things of what to look out for. Okay, so number one is, watch out for your black or whatever leaders, falsely fake leaders. Don't follow after them. Follow after the righteous men that are telling you to go back to the law, statutes, and commandments. Alright, let's look at 1 Maccabees 2, verse 17. Now, to give you some background, there was a righteous man named Matthias that was in the time of the Maccabees. He was a righteous man because he was following after the law, statutes, commandments, and his son, his household was in order. Now, it's funny though, because what will happen is that the heathen will always go through two influential men. Okay, like they went through those influential wicked leaders. They would try to go for influential men. Okay, so that was point number one. They go to influential men and get them to persuade their people. So they went to Matthias to do the same thing. Pretty much went to him persuade him. Okay? To do wicked. Alright, so let's look at First Maccabees 2, verse 17.
First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 17. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city.
I want you to really take these words in, because when the white man, who is the devil, or when the heathen comes, he first always has soothing words. He always will try to come as a friend. He's just being friendly. That's how he persists. He doesn't just come out right out and just be a terror. He has to set the scenery up. So he sets it up. He tries to flatter you with words. Okay? It says, you are an honorable man. Precept. When the enemy does that. And you know another precept? Psalm 55.
What's that, 55 and 21? Psalm 55 and 21?
Come on, let's pull that real quick. So when the heathen approaches our leaders, he always approaches with flattering words. His words are just very, and you see that nowadays. What do our black leaders do? They're always a lot of times the best people. A lot of these Christian pastors are actually English majors, they said. They know how to speak. They know what to say, the right words. They know what to say things. We these politicians do that. They know the right words to say. Why? Because they're trying to sell you something. So when they sell you something, they gotta flatter you. Let's look at Psalm 55. Let's start at verse 20.
Psalms chapter 55, verse 20. He hath put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him.
Okay, so we always try to come with peace. The heathen will always approach you peacefully at first. Where can we see that in history? That's the natives. Right. He went to the natives, and you know why? Because first of all, when he came to this land, he didn't know how to survive. So he had to come peaceable with the natives. He had to come as so-called a friend. Okay? Help me. I come in peace. And a lot of times, what's behind that is other things. Let's look. What else does it say? Bible shot.
He hath broken his covenant.
Okay, so behind that, he's going to break his covenant. Behind those smooth words, he's going to break those trees like he did to the Lakota Sioux. Every time the Lakota Sioux bargained with him, he lied again to the Lakota Sioux. That's not the only ones. Okay? Or what about the Wampanoags? He looked and took their land. That's true Thanksgiving. The land destruction or the land taken by the white man from the Wampanoag tribe. He has these promises.
Right.
He'll sit down and have a meal with you. He'll sit down and say, hey, I'll bargain with you. But it's not what he's going to do. He's going to break his treaty. He's going to break his covenant. He's going to break his promises. What else does it say?
Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter.
He speaks those nice, soothing words. I'm your friend. I'm going to help you. Black lives do matter. I need the black vote. I need the black vote. If you don't vote for me, you're not black enough. They'll say all these words to just let me go ahead and get them. You know that a lot of times they always get a black to stand by their side. That goes right back to slavery. Get a black to stand right by your side to show your people it's okay. It's okay. A lot of times, even in slavery, the slave master didn't do a lot of work. He sent the black overseer to do things.
Right.
And so when people saw the black overseer, that would also convince them. The black overseer was the one that a lot of times sometimes put a whip to our backs. Or the overseer was the one who was telling you, had to bring us in per se. It was a black overseer. Sometimes he was the one that did that to persuade us. What else does it say?
But war was in his heart.
War was in his heart against the Wampanoags. War was in his heart against the Algonquins. War was in his heart against the Lakota. War was in his heart against the Apache. War the cages. War is in his heart. Okay? So I know we're jumping back and forth, but let's go back to the first Maccabees 2 verse 17. And let's start at the part where it says, thou art an honorable and great man. Let's start there.
First Maccabees chapter 2 verse 17. Thou art a ruler, an honorable man, and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren.
Okay, so you're a great man, honorable man. Okay? Now, let's see what they say, because you know that they're saying flattering words, but you know there's a device behind it. Let's read verse 18, Bible Shop.
Verse 18. Now therefore, come thou first, and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
What does the white man do when he is trying to get you to be on his side? He speaks soothing words first, and then he promises you all these great things.
Right.
I'll put you up on my cabinet. I'll put you in the White House with me. Join me, and you will be join me. And that's what happened to some of our native brothers while they had to fight each other. Because the white man was like, well, if you fight me, fight on my side, then I'm going to make sure you retain these lands. And so we had some of our native Indian brothers up north killing each other, fighting each other in the Revolutionary War. Because each side promised, hey, if you fight with me, the British, and the certain native brothers fight with them, and the colonists said that. So it's like, hey, you fight, so it's like brothers were fighting against brothers. Okay? You saw that even when the Buffalo soldiers were going out. We were going against our native brothers. So the white man will try to, he'll do these things. Okay? He promises you things. There was a man who was a general in the Civil War. His name was General Sherman. What do you promise black people? Fight me and get you 4 acres of mule. Let's sign it up.
Right.
Fight me and I'll give you this. I'll give you lands. I'll give you titles. What does the white man do nowadays? Work for me and you'll get all of this. I'll pay you a star. I'll put you out there. Everybody will know your name. It's the same attitude. You know, do this for me. So we always give these promises. Where else do we see that in Scripture? Where else do we see that in Scripture? Let's look at that. That's an Scripture. Let's look at Matthew chapter 4. Come on. Let's look at Matthew chapter 4. I just want you to see that the lessons that I want you to see. This is coming from the Maccabees, which has to do with economy. And remember, this is a brotherhood class. What does this have to do with a brotherhood class? It's the same as that when we go to another culture, we're not being brotherly. We're not being brotherly. Because part of being brotherly, part of brotherhood is following after the law, statutes, and commandments. Because what did Yahweh say? What are the two greatest commandments? Love the Most High with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind.
Right.
And the second is like it. To love your neighbor as yourself. Now these two hang on the law and the prophets. So if you are following the customs of the heathen, you can't be being brotherly because you actually start to hate your brother.
Right.
You start to hate who you are. You start to hate your father. You start to hate your mother. You start to hate because of those customs and those ways. They actually teach you to go against them. They actually teach you. And so that's why a lot of times we join the white man's culture. What do? We forget about our own people. We get ourselves a white one. We start living with white people. That's what we start to do. We start feeling like we're better than our own people. We start feeling like we're better than Tyrone in the hood or Keisha in the hood. We feel like we gotta get a level up by living with the white man. That's like the golden ticket. I gotta get out of here and live with the white man. So that's not being brotherly. When you follow the heathen, you're actually imagine not being brotherly. So following the customs and the law, statutes, and commandments has everything to do with being brotherly. Because it's about brotherhood. Brotherhood, gathering yourselves together. Us gathering together in brotherhood at the feast.
Right.
Us gathering together in brotherhood, keeping the Sabbaths on the high holy days. Okay, that's brotherhood. That brings about unity. That's what brings it about. But when you're following the heathen, you're not here at Passover. When you're following the heathen, you're not keeping the days of unleavened bread. When you're following the heathen, you're not keeping the Pentecost. You're not keeping atonement. You're not keeping Feast of Tabernacles. You're not keeping that. You're not here. You know why? You're not keeping Hanukkah. You know why? Where are you during Hanukkah? You're celebrating Christmas.
Right.
You're celebrating Christmas. So it's like you're forsaking your brother because you're celebrating what the heathen wants you to do. You're celebrating Christmas. You're celebrating New Year's. You're celebrating your birthday. While your brother's over here keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. You're over there eating shrimp, crabs, and lobster, and the big turkey and the big ham at the Thanksgiving table. That's what you're doing. That's what we're doing if we follow that ways to eat. And I'm talking about all of us. That's what we're doing. Alright, let's go to Matthew chapter 4, verse 8. Let's read verses 8 through 9. Bible shot.
Matthew chapter 4, verse 8. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain.
Okay, so the devil is taking Yahushua up. This is the story of Yahushua being tempted by the devil. Moving on.
And sheweth him all the kingdoms of the world.
Okay, so now he's showing him all these great things in the world. He's showing them all. Look at all this. So what does he say?
And the glory of them.
All the glorious things that you think, all the riches, all the fame, all of this he can see, let him see it. What does he say to him?
Verse 9. And saith unto him, all these things will I give thee.
All these things will I give thee. Because the white man pretty much said, I am all these things. The white man is in rulership. He was in rulership. The white Roman was in rulership, and Yahushua did. He was in rulership. The Greeks were in rulership during the Maccabees, at the time of the Maccabees. So it's like, I'm running the show right now. I got all of this. What does he say?
If thou wilt fall down and worship me.
If you join me, if you just join me, put me as your king. Put me as your leader. Put my party as the one that you look up to. Put my customs first. What is the commandment? Thou shalt not have no other gods before. This is right. Put me first. Trust in me. What does he say?
Verse 9. And saith unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me.
If you just put me above you, and you put me above you, if you put me first, I will give you all these things. And that's the same thing that happened with these Matthias do. So when the white man comes, when our leaders give in to him, or when our leaders give in, the next thing he's going to do is he's going to speak kind words.
Right.
He's going to speak kind words and he's going to make promises. He's going to make some promises. And of course he never keeps them, but he's going to persuade you to make some promises. Okay? So, and then where's another precept? You can look back in Genesis chapter 3, we don't have to go there, verses 4 through 5. What does the serpent say to the woman? If you take of this, what? You'll be what? What do you say to her? What does the serpent say to the woman? She said, well, we can't take of this tree. And he said, well, he said, it's not that you're going to die. What did he say?
He said, you'll be like a god.
You'll be like a god. You'll be like this guy. You'll be wise. Right, so you see all that? He was telling her, say he was lying, but he was pretty much telling her the things that would happen if she would pretty much fall to him. So what he said, listen to his words. And that's how the white man's attitude. The white man's attitude, when he talks, it's like his word is law. It's like, when if you listen to me, this is what will happen. Alright, so let's jump back to the story. I know we're jumping back and forth, but I want to give you some background information of what the heathen does when we join over to him. Our leaders give it over, then he gives us nice and promising words, and he gives soothing words, and then he makes treaties with us. He makes a covenant with us. But then let's see what he does after that. Let's go down to First Maccabees. Let's see. I'm sorry. Let's go to First Maccabees. We're going to go 1, and let's start in verse 30. So after he makes his peace and says peaceful words and makes promises, and actually we're going to pick this in this scripture, we're going to pick up when he speaks peaceful words.
First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 30. And spake peaceable words unto them.
Okay, so you speak the people peaceful words and promises unto the people of Israel. Okay, what else?
But all was deceit.
Okay, lying. That's what the white man does. What did the native say? He speaks with a forked tongue. He says lying. Okay, he just wants to move you into a position. All right, what else?
For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city.
This is where he goes to war. After he gets you to where he needs you to be, because you know what he does? When the white man is making a deal with you, he's pretty much bringing your guard down.
Right.
You put away your sword. You put away your defense. And then he just attacks you suddenly. Ask our native Croatan brothers. Okay? That's what happened to them. When the colonists came over, before the Roanoke colony, they had certain colony establishments. Okay? And what they did, they would make peace with the Croatoans, and then they would attack them at night. That's exactly what they would do. The ones they were just friendly with. And they were going to attack them at night. So they'll catch you off guard when they're making peace with you. Okay? What else does it say about verse 30?
And smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel.
Just wiped them out. What's happened to our native brothers? They just got wiped out. They just got wiped out. Okay? Our native brothers were just demolished and wiped out. Think about other times in history. What about the time with, see, a lot of people don't want to talk about this because, they're scared to talk against Islam. But what happened to some of our brothers when it came to the Saharan slave trade? I mean, they were just wiped out. A lot of our brothers were taken across the Saharan desert and died. They castrated most of those men. They said 147 million probably perished in the Saharan slave trade. Another 99 million probably died in the transatlantic. They don't even know. Okay? So what he does is he completely obliterates you. He just complete. After he makes peace, after he makes it seem like he's just there to help or to be your friend, or after he's making a treaty with you, he's going to surely bring it. He's going to demolish. He's going to demolish you, and that's what you have to look out for. That is the danger of what the white man will do. And why does he do that? It's because we allow that to happen when we give over. We give over to the heathen customs. When we turn our back on the law, statutes, and commandments, our leaders turn on, this is what happens. We are attacked suddenly. And he burns it all to the ground. Okay? Let's read verse 31. It actually says that.
Verse 31. And when he had taken the spoils of the city.
Stop right there. Another thing he'll do is he'll, of course, take your spoils. Just pick a black talent now. The white man will take black talent and make money off of it. He's going to make money off your talent. The black people that are doing all the talent, they don't get the money. They get a crumb. They get a crumb compared to what the white man gets. You can dunk, he'll give you a couple million. He's making $1 billion, or $2 billion. He's making a couple. And remember, you can't play forever. Okay? He can own, and what after he's done with you, he'll just go buy another black to do stuff for him. Have you noticed the people that own the bed? They be 80, 90 years old, sitting up in the press box, collecting the money. Off a black talent, taking the spoils. What do? What did the conquistadors do when they went down into Mexico? Central and the Caribbean. Spain became rich. And then England was always trying to fight Spain because of that, because they wanted their piece of the pie too. And so England had Drake do a lot of that. Drake was one of those explorers that Queen Elizabeth loved to use. Okay, and ransacked people. That's how they got rich. They would go to these lands where our native brothers were and destroy them and take all the gold. It's the same thing that happened to us back then. Same thing. He'll take the spoils, but it's happening today. He takes black talent, he takes Hispanic talent, and he uses it. And then when he uses that, he takes the spoils. What does he do? What's next?
He set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side.
What does that really mean? The white man, what is that? How can we relate that today?
Ain't that what he did at Black Wall Street?
Black Wall Street burned it down. And why does he burn things? Why does he burn it down? Why does the white man burn it down? Because, go ahead, sir.
He doesn't want you to rebuild.
He doesn't want you to rebuild or remember.
Right.
Or remember. General Yamato always says, the earth in this country cries with the bones of natives. So what did they do when they destroyed the natives?
Right.
They built Washington, D.C. They built New York City. They built Chicago. They built it up. They brought, because they didn't want no trace of those native brothers.
Right.
They didn't want no trace. How many, you see all the, there were so many black towns and black neighborhoods that have been burned down we don't even know about today. Black Wall Street was just one of them. There was towns in Florida that were destroyed. There were towns in North Carolina that were destroyed. That black businesses demolished. He does not want you to remember who you are. So he can build up his identity, build up his culture. And that's what he does. And this is how we lose our identity. This is how we lose our culture. This is how we lose who we are. Because when our leaders invite them in, then the white man will take it to the next level. He'll say kind words, he'll make a covenant, he'll break it, and then he's going to demolish you. And this all is because why? Our leaders asked for it. Because we turned our back. But these are the levels that happens. Okay? What else does it say? Verse 32.
Verse 32. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle.
Okay, so this should be easy. How do you see that nowadays? So when the white man comes, he always pretty much destroys the black man first. Got to get the black man out the way. Okay? Like I said before, in this trans-Saharan slave trade, they pretty much castrated our Israelite brothers as they were taken across the area. Right. That was the first thing they did, was castrate the man. Because when you pretty much cut a man off, you're cutting the identity of somebody off. So they didn't want they cut. And then over here, a lot of them been on the transatlantic slaves, a lot of them were committing suicide. Because remember, they separated the men and the women on the slave ships. Okay? And the men would just jump, they would die, they would kill themselves. And then the ones that got over here, they tried to break, the slave maker would break them. And what would they do? They would take the women and the children. 2 million black men now today are in jail. And what have they done? They've taken our women and children. They've taken them. How have they taken our children? How have they taken the native Indian children? They put them in boarding school. And what did they say? Kill the Indian, save the man. How are they doing that today? Always send us in our black schools? Who runs our black schools today? Is it my black? Is it my us? No. The white therapists, the white principal, the white teachers. White female teachers. Number one in black city schools. Black urban schools. White teachers. They take our children. How do they take our women? They manipulate our women. They put, what did the white man do in slavery? What did he do? What did he do with our women? He put our women in the house with him.
Right.
He beat the hell out of the black man in front of the woman. So what did he do? He whipped the black man and bumped him, pretty much raped him in front of his family. And why did he do it in front of the women and children? He did it in front of the women and children to let them know he was sending a message that your man is weak. He can't protect you. And not only did he bump the black man, to rape that black man for days. Right. The black man would be laying on that stump. He would chop down the tree, and they would lay him on that tree stump and rape him. Then what would he do with our black woman? He would take our black woman and put her in the house with him. Or he would build a cottage where she could stay next door to him. Right. So he took our women. And what did he do? And I always say this is called the Beulah complex. Okay, there's a sister that actually does a teaching, and she teaches black women not to have the Beulah complex. Really good, too. Okay, sister, her name is Pam Bell. Very good. She teaches Beulah complex. What's the Beulah complex? Okay, the Beulah complex is pretty much, you start to pretty much trust that white man, what he says. This goes right back to slavery. Because remember, the Beulah could be a little sassy. Because she had the white man's ear. The white man was raping her. Don't get me wrong. Raping her. But she was right there by his side. And she thought that made her disgusted with the black man because he would protect her. And the white man would let her know, I am your rule you. Right. I tell you what to do. Okay, it's that Beulah complex. Alright? So they took our women and children. That's what's happening nowadays. Our women are taken. They won't listen to a black man, but they won't listen to that white boss. Right. They don't listen to that white boss. It's actually even better than when some they even talk to me about the black man. Okay? So, pretty much, this sums up a lot of how our identity was taken. Alright? Our identity was taken from us because we asked for it, and then the white man just took it to the next level. Alright? So let's jump down to, so after the white man takes pretty much our identity and our culture, what does he do next? Let's look at this. And I'm going through this because then we got to talk about how we get it back. Okay? Let's look at verse 42.
First Maccabees chapter.
Let's look at verse 41.
First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
Where have you heard that one? That's the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation.
One nation.
One people.
Right.
I'm an American. You're not. You're an American. Okay? Same attitude. Same attitude. What is it on our coins? The pluribus unum. Right? So like one of many or out of many of one, something like that. Right. Okay? It's just like, we're one nation. Be American. Be Greek. That's what he really, be a Greek and be proud. Say it loud, you're Greek and you're proud. Okay? That's what he really said. Read verse 42.
Verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws.
Leave the laws that you were taught. Leave the laws of your forefathers. This relates to us. Leave those laws, statutes, commandments. Read on.
So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
Everybody agreed. All the people of the land, everybody agreed. Okay? Let's read verse 43.
Verse 43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to this religion.
Consented to be a Republican, be a Democrat. Okay? Join in with these parties. Come on, get out there and vote. What is voting done for black people? I mean, like, seriously, I always ask people that when they get mad at me. Because you can't tell especially an older black person you didn't vote. You didn't do what? You didn't do what? What is voting done for black people? The politician always says, vote for me. This is what happened. Black people vote. Black people put JFK in the office. Pretty much the whole black people were out to put him in the office. And nothing happened. Okay, they did nothing because it's those words of peace. All right, let's read on.
And sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath.
Profaned the Sabbath, sacrificed unto idols. Okay, so pretty much going against what the Most High commanded our forefathers. Let's jump down to verse 48.
First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 48. That they sure you want to start at 48?
You want to start at verse let's start at verse 46.
1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messenger unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
Okay, so they're following the strange laws of the heathen. Let's keep it going.
Verse 45, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festival days.
Okay, so now they're just not, they're going through their own days, pretty much. They're profaning it. They're not keeping the days like the Most High. They got their own, they got Christmas. They got Easter. Okay, they got their own holidays, those free holidays. Keep going.
Verse 46, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people.
Okay, they're profaning it. All right, they're doing idolatrous acts. Verse 47.
Verse 47, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
What is this? To set up altars and groves and chapels of idols. What is that for nowadays? What do you see in almost every hood across the nation? What do you see? What's there? The Christian church. That's what it is. This is the Christian church, verse 47. Let's read that again.
Verse 47, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
That's all the Christian church. Crab feasts. Right in the Christian church. Lobster fests. Pork fest. I mean, really. Okay? That's all in the Christian church. In every hood, there's Christian church. In every hood, the Christian church is on a couple corners. I mean, everybody's out there killing each other, but the Christian church is right there.
Right.
Right there where your grandma makes you go. When you're young, you gotta go with grandma to that Christian church. You better stay awake. You know, grandma, big mama will hit you. Stay awake during church. Alright, that's what it is. Verse 48, let's read.
Verse 48, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation.
Okay, that they should leave their children uncircumcised. That's what grandma, that's what big mama's dragging you into the Christian church. She's leaving you uncircumcised. Because she's teaching you the customs of the heathen. Because all the customs of the Christian church come from these Greek practices. They come from those Roman practices. They come from the homosexuality that ran in the Greek and Rome. Right in the Christian church. Molestation of children. Molestation was so prevalent in Greece. Actually, when the kids in Sparta, one of the things that were part of the training, and when the kids, when the kids in training were in Sparta, they would have that male, they would have like a male leader, and God, he was raping them.
Right.
That was part of the training. That was part of it. Got molested. That's right in the Christian church. The man is taking you under your wing, is molesting you. Molesting your children. This is right here. And in Rome. Actually, in Rome, if a Roman got up today, he wouldn't even know what homosexuality was. You know why? They didn't separate things in Rome. It was whoever you liked. And all of them liked men. Boy lovers. That's pretty much what they were in Rome. It's just whoever you're with. They didn't separate like we do. We got hetero, homo, and whatever. Peace guy was here. Whatever. Rome, it was whoever you liked. And they liked men. Those men liked each other. And that's what caused our people to do. This is what caused us to get these idolatrous practices when we're going after the way of the heathen. Let's read on. Go on.
Verse 49, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
That's going to cause you to forget, because now, when you grow up, I don't know about, a lot of us didn't grow up in the truth, but when we grow up, we didn't know the law. We thought we knew who God was.
Right.
We thought that because we went to Sunday church. I was in Christian school. We thought we knew who God was. Okay, we say and we celebrated Christmas. Put the lights up, not knowing that Jeremiah 10 speaks against Christmas. Come on. Not knowing that. Let's just pull that real quick. If we can we hold our place there? Jeremiah 10. Let's just pull that. They didn't teach us this in some Sunday school. I grew up in Sunday school. Okay, in Sunday school, you sit there, you learn about the Bible stories. You always start with Adam and Eve. And everybody's white for some odd reason. They're white. You do the coloring picture books, you're always coloring a white man. A white man is naked, half naked, of course, got a leaf over, covering himself. And Eve's got a leaf covering herself from the top and bottom. But they're white. And, now some people grew up, I guess, some places they were black, but, in some churches, a lot of times they had the white images. And then you learn about the Bible stories that you say your Bible verses. You had to know your Bible verses. Jesus loved me, this I know, for the Bible tells you so. For God so loved the world, gave us, so you just thought everybody was just, God. That's how you were taught.
Right.
You didn't know the truth. And guess what? Guess what was the best time in the Christian church? Christmas time. That's when you learned about a way in a manger, the little Lord Jesus. That's what we learned. And then I went to a Christian private school in kindergarten. We did the shepherd story and the manger and all. That's what we learned. We didn't learn, and we thought we knew God. And we did. Let's read Jeremiah 10. Let's read Jeremiah 10, starting at verse 1.
Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you.
So this is the Most High speaking. They never took us to this verse. Read on.
O house of Israel.
He's talking to the black, Hispanics, and Native. Read on.
Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen.
Learn not the way of the Greeks. Learn not the way of the Romans. Learn not the way of the white American. Learn not their ways. What are their ways? Being a Republican, being a Christian, being a Democrat. Okay? Being a homosexual. Being a pedophile. Learn not those ways. Celebrating Christmas. Celebrating Thanksgiving. Let's see what the Most High said. So he's saying, don't learn these ways. So this is something the Greeks would have done. Read on.
And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
Don't do what they're doing. They were obsessed with these things. Okay, read on.
For the heathen are dismayed at them.
Okay, the heathen are dismayed at them. Don't do what the heathen is doing. Read on.
Verse 3. For the customs of the people are vain.
For the customs of the people are vain. Okay, it's vanity. It's not going to get you anywhere. This ain't going to save your life. And let's see what the customs are. Let's read on.
For one cutteth a tree out of the forest.
One cutteth the tree out of the forest. What the heathen does. That's what the Greeks did. That's what the Romans did. Actually, the Romans did, what was Christmas in Rome? The Saturnalia. What they would do. Okay? What else is it say?
The work of the hands of the workmen.
Okay, he goes and cuts it down. He's proud of the tree that he's cut down. Okay? He's proud of it. He's like, it looks good. This looks like a nice thing I can use. Okay? And that's actually part of what Christmas is all about. We're going to find that tree. Man, I gotta have a right tree. You're looking around, what tree would fit in my house?
Right.
Okay, what's going to be a good fit? And that's part of the so-called excitement. Going and searching for that tree. That's what the heathen does. Not telling us not to search for the Most High, search for that tree. Read on.
With the axe. Verse 4. They deck it with silver and gold.
That was what they teach. That's what they would teach us. That was the fun part. Throwing all the glittery stuff in the tree, putting the ornaments on. This is the way of the heathen. This is the way of the heathen. Read on.
They fasten it with nails and with hammers.
That's the tree fasten. At the bottom, you always have that part of the bottom that holds the tree in place and put the nails in it. Fasten Christmas right there. And what is the Most High saying? Learn not the way of the heathen. Don't learn that way. Don't do that. Right there. Don't celebrate Christmas. Right there. You're going to see what else how horrible Christmas is. Alright? Let's go back to First Maccabees. I know this will probably be a part 2, but I want to set the scenery so you understand how we got into this condition and how we can learn from the Maccabees. I know I'm going a little winded, but I want you to really get this story. Because these are steps that are taken to get us put in this position. Our leaders started off. Our leaders lust after the ways of the heathens. Most High talk about in Ezekiel how Israel, or us, pretty much was lusting after other gods. And our leaders do that. Then what happens to our leaders? Our leaders are promised certain things. Well, if you do this, then you'll get this. And then they give in. And then it causes all the masses to turn in. And then what happens? When our guard is down, we're just caught off guard and we're destroyed because we just made some type of covenant or deal with the white man. Then he destroys us. He destroys us. He comes down on us. And then, after he comes down and destroys us, he wipes out our identity. We don't know who we are anymore. Then he builds over that. And then he says, after he kills us and hurts us, why don't we all just be one? You know why the white man says that? When the white man says, let's all be one, he wants you to forget what the crime he did to you.
Right.
I guarantee you one thing. I guarantee you this. You can call me up. If Hitler and the Nazis got up nowadays and went to the Jewish man and said, why don't we all be one? Do you think the Jewish man's going to be like, you're right, let's be one. The Jewish man will be like, I didn't forget all that. Now, I didn't forget that, but the white man, when he does that to us, the white Jewish man does that to us because the white Jewish man was definitely a part of the slave trade too. He tries to gloss over that. A lot of the slave owners were Jewish men. He always talks about his 12 years of Holocaust. He forgets the 400 years that his forefathers were owning us. He tries to gloss over that. You don't remember. He for some reason don't remember that. I heard a Jewish lady on TV talking about, well, Jews never owned slaves. I was like, that's a damn lie. Jews actually Jewish people, and I'm talking about the white Jewish man, not the real black. But Jewish men have wrote about it. The Jewish slave guys wrote about it. You know what I'm talking about? Jewish people never owned slaves. Where was she living at? Where was she living at? All right. But so that's what happened. So let's go back to verse 50 now.
First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 50. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die.
He said he should die. Pretty much convert or die. You've heard this before. This is all back in slavery. Okay, when they were pushing Christianity on us. You pretty much had to convert or you were considered a savage. And then hung. And then burned. And then died. You were considered evil. And then you died. Because you would protect. That's why a lot of our native brothers were murdered.
Right.
They wouldn't accept that Christianity because Spain really liked to push Christianity. That was one of the reasons why they had wars. They were trying to push Christianity. That's why they were trying to push it. And if you weren't budget, you would die. Who else did that to us? Look at the slave trade with the Muslims. You had to convert to Islam or die.
Right.
There was no step. You had to convert or die. Same thing the heathen did. Same story. Let's read on.
Verse 51. In the selfsame manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city.
So they always got their representatives that's going to make sure this is happening. Okay, you always got your leaders. Probably some, Uncle Tom's in there, or whoever. That's going to be, making sure these things happen. Making sure you vote. Go to those polls and vote. Vote for that white man. Okay? All right. Let's go down to, let me see. Let's get a comment.
Verse 52. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land.
So they committed evils. All right, let's keep it going.
Verse 53, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor.
Okay, so a lot of our Israelite brothers had to flee, trying to escape this harsh condition. Okay, we had, like we did back in slavery, escape these harsh conditions. Okay, some committed suicide. They just couldn't take it. All right, let's go to verse 54.
Verse 54. Now the 15th day of the month, Cassalu.
All right, so Cassalu, what month is that?
That'd be December.
Come. So Cassalu is the month of December. Now I want us to really look at this. The 15th month of Cassalou. So the 15th of December. Oh, that's today.
Oh, yeah. That.
That's exactly today. Read, what does it say?
In the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side.
Okay, so they're burning up the abomination of desolation in the holy place, and they're building abominations, they're sacrificing pigs, they're doing horrible things. Okay? Alright, I want us to jump down to verse 59 because I know we're running out of time. There's going to have to be a part 2 to this. But what was the point of today? The point of today is how we lost our identity and how we see it being lost today, or how our identity was taken away, how it was taken away back then, how it was taken away today. That's part of learning about what Hanukkah is. Hanukkah. And then we'll talk about how we can get it back. Let's look at verse 59.
59. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 59. Now the 25th day of the month.
Okay, so 5 and 20 days is what? What month? And it's talking about the same month. So we're in December. So the 5 and 20 days is what day?
25th.
The 25th, and which is Christmas. What happens on this day?
That's when Santa comes.
That's when right.
It's a lie here. That's that celebration of Christmas.
That's the Christmas celebration. You notice how General Hyman brought this out. There's nothing new here.
Right.
General Hyman brought this out beautifully, which I learned from him. There's nothing new here. The 25th day of December is nothing new nowadays. Nothing new. So let's see what they did on the 25th day.
Now, the 20th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of God.
So they're doing some celebrations and sacrifices and celebrations on this day. Okay? Worshiping. Alright, what else do they do? Verse 60.
Verse 60. At which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised.
So let me ask you a question, because I also did something on Thanksgiving. Why we should do Thanksgiving 3 weeks ago. Why would you want to celebrate? Why would we want to celebrate a day where they were killing our women? Just like, why should you celebrate Thanksgiving when that pretty much is commemorating the death of the Wampanoags and the other native peoples? So on the 25th day, Israelite women were slaughtered. You really want to commemorate that day? You want to cover that day up with giving gifts? Like that just didn't happen? Nobody's going to commemorate a day. Nobody's going to eat a turkey on... America's not going to sit there and have a snack on Pearl Harbor Day. They ain't going to say, yo, listen, let's have a turkey and all that. Commemorate what the Japanese came over. Even though America was messing with the Japanese, but that's another story. So they pretty much all planned that. That was all planned, like this pandemic. All right, but it's always a plot. All right, let's read one more verse. Verse 61.
Verse 61. And they hanged the infants about their necks, and rifled their houses, and slew them that had circumcised them.
So they're killing babies on this day. We want to really commemorate a holiday where our Israelite children were hung. This was what happened was on Christmas.
Right.
Okay, this is what was really happening. Children were being hung. They weren't singing around talking about Charlie Brown. They were being hung. Black Israelite babies. Hispanic Israelite babies. Native Indian babies were being hung on Christmas Day. So we celebrate the day that talks about the slaughter of Israelites. Just the same way that Thanksgiving is. We shouldn't do this day. One, because the Most High said don't do it. So we lose our identity and we are following the customs of the heathen. December 25th was the day for the heathen. Our day that we should celebrate Passover, because that's over the slaughter of our enemies. You want to have a feast, do the feast of the Most High said, Passover. That's the thing. See, they celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving because it talks about the slaughter of our people. We don't want to commemorate that day. let's remember the day when the Most High slaughtered people for us. So to end it off, we will make this a part 2. Hanukkah is a day, it's a time where it talks about how we lost our identity. We lost our identity, one, because our leaders asked for it. And this is, and General Hyman, I got a lot, most of this teaching I learned from General Yohana and General Hyman. I learned a lot from General Yohana with this teaching. Because General Yohana points out how we lost our identity. He stresses that. If I were to look up some of his teaching, I learned basically everything from him. And General Hyman, I learned from him also talking about how do we lose our identity? We ask for it. And our leaders ask for it.
Right.
Okay? And so what happens? When we ask for it, then our heathens persuade other people. I mean, our leaders persuade other people. And then what happens? The enemy comes right in, the heathen comes right in, and he just promises us things with his nice, smooth words. And then he comes with utter destruction. And then once he destroys us, then he builds right on top of that so we don't remember that he just did that. That he just abused us. And with that, we're going to continue this next time for the part 2. And we're going to talk about how we can gain our identity, how we did gain our identity back on Hanukkah, and how we in the Isupk are working towards that. Saving, fixing black men, fixing black women, black, Hispanic, and Native men and women every day, so that we can also, which we are doing, reclaiming our identity. Shalom.
Brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves to the world. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an incident of particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithe, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18-21 and Malachi 3:8-10. It's pronounced from Isupk. It means 10th in the Hebrew, and it is pronounced from Isupk. A 10th of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you to the treasury department of the teacher. Priest fund, a free will offering for the priest, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Up at the Holy Convocations, remind Akim and Aquarius, check on social media such as ISUK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUK events and material. We have the Passover coming up. What's that? April the 26th. April the 26th, 2021. Every brother, every Akim, every Aquarium should make it there to Houston, Texas this year. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, shirts, pants, tennis pants, and scarf. And with that, we're going to give one courtesy salute. April 24th. And with that, we're going to give one courtesy salute to the teacher, Minister Israel, Elijah Shabbat, Elijah Barak, Yahweh Shimi Al-Shabbat, Yahweh Shimi Al-Shabbat, Yazita, class dismissed. I didn't know that was December. So we learn from each other too, you know what I mean? That's what makes this truth. That's what makes this truth awesome. You know what I mean? Because brothers learn from other brothers. It's like, it's nice, you know? When you say that, I was like, wow. You know what I mean? Again, going through this scripture.
Perfect. I was gonna rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me.
No affiliation, why they faking? This ain't for debating. We the real, they really imitation. I be contemplating why this ain't no like heavy rotation on radio stations. I just pray the Lord give me patience, cause I'm running through these rappers like my name Walter Payton. Shitting on these rappers, 9 to 5 is my occupation. Raw, you come in with your best troops, you best bring more. Already told you I got the juice like Orenthal. Already know what I'm about to do, bet your men fall. Everyone know that we got the truth, all your men falls. So lost, overtaking our enemies. Moves calculated and orchestrated like symphonies. Smooth operator when bringing haters to misery. Top 5 list ain't shit unless you mention me. Yeah, that's why we don't associate. Fuck niggas make them more fuck niggas. Why they procreate? Why they overhate? Cause they time is short and a moment late. Let it culminate to they harder race and it palpitate. Cowards perpetrate like they little group is respectable. Talking intellectual, all of you homosexuals, faggots.
There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his
I don't
children.
want to congregate. I don't want to deal with you. I don't want the fellowship. I ain't trying to build with you. Ain't the UPK, ain't the truth. Keep it real with you. Defenders of the faith. I got no problem bumping heads with you. All that bullshit, you can take it over there with you. Rather be a houseboy. Rather run with them field niggas. Show them to put in work. Move mountain, crush hills, nigga. Take a dead soul. Breathe life and make it live, nigga. No affiliation, so it's no one to compare with us. Took the Lord's laws and just added it with fear, nigga. Ain't for the body, cause you know like killing head quicker. With these bars, I'm on my grizzly, so bear witness. You spit cold, I spit flu. Don't compare sickness. You floss diamond, I floss fringes. Don't compare dentists. You PK, we men the war shit. We ain't Christian. Harm one of us, get pistol whipped like the gun got a belt with it. I'm bred different. The competition just a mill. I'm fed different. I stood front line on them fields. I bled different. I'd rather be a corpse than a coward. I'm led different. Shit, I'm led different. Come through like a juggernaut, so don't get in the way. And we take everything serious. We don't play. I wonder now what they gon' say. Shit, we make profits out of shooters like the NBA. You get slayed for switching sides, nigga. We ain't on the same page. Immaculate conception. Wow. These niggas bitch made. I'm sticking with the foundation where my bricks laid. You switch sides, I'd rather switch cage. You was never with us, nigga. Just know we won't miss you, nigga. Right hand hold the scriptures, nigga. Left hip hold the pistol, nigga. How you want it? You can get it spiritual or physics, nigga. Wrong ones to come against, so bring an army with you. No affiliation. When you see us, make the difference with us. No affiliation. When you see us, know we different, nigga. No affiliation. So no, you can't kick it with us. The wrong ones to come against, bring an army with you.